And the Gnostics identified the salvationist belief system of Judeo-Christianity as the instrument of Arcontic intrusion. It is the instrument. It is the main instrument in which they impact our behavior and get into our skins. Although they don't literally incarnate as human beings, we become so like them. We become so zombified in these religious belief systems of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We become so zombified in our behavior that it's just as if they had embodied themselves in us. That is their highest satisfaction, if you will.
Right.
The Gnostics taught many things about humanity and our makeup. And one of the things they taught is that the goddess Sophia, the divine Sophia, who actually engineered the human genome, she is the source of the human genome, endowed us with a special power, which they call the luminous epinoia. And that is actually the power of imagination. And they tell in their backstory of the remote history and cosmology of the Earth, they say that when Sophia recognized the presence of the Archons in our solar system, she saw that as humanity emerged and lived out its experiment on Earth, a divine experiment on Earth, that the Archons would interfere and try to interfere in various ways. She then gave us a gift and a power to resist their interference, which is the luminous epinoia, which is imagination. But there's a really big problem with human imagination, which I would put in this way. If you don't use your imagination correctly, someone else will use it against you. Or I would put it even in another way. If you do not use your imagination correctly, you yourself can even use it against you. Your imagination can become a delusional force. Now, I think that these rumors of these hybrid programs and all of this, first of all, the Gnostics said that the hybrid program failed and that they did not succeed. I think that they are products of our imagination. They're products of paranoia, basically. And that by going into these realms of paranoia, we are actually providing a mental theater where the Archons can play out their game with us, which is a mind game of betrayal and deceit. And that we actually betray our humanity by playing into these scenarios. But unless we have a way to direct our imagination and focus it on our true humanity, that is a risk that we face. So one of the things that I'd like to get to at the end of this conversation we're having about transhumanism is how to defeat transhumanism by getting into the true identity of humanity. Transhumanism is an attempt to create, as I said, a concept of humanity, a hybrid, cybernetic species, superior to what we are, superior to being other animals, that is actually a betrayal of what our true potential is. If we could realize our true potential as magical children of Sophia, there wouldn't be any attraction in these games and in these scenarios. No attraction in the least.
True.
As far as I can tell, and I follow Jacques Vallée on this and a few other people who are particularly astute, the whole ET UFO phenomenon since 1947, since Roswell, is a huge psyops. You know, it's a huge psyops to cover up black ops and covert military operations and very sinister things that certain military gangs around the world are perpetrating. So when I say that, however, please understand that I do not dismiss the phenomenon. I do not say that the phenomenon of alien intrusion can be totally dismissed on that account. Not at all. As far as I know, following the mystery school teachings, there is a real threat of this archonic intrusion that needs to be faced. But we need to know who the real enemy is, and we need to see their face clearly and see their motives and their methods. So there's a trap that we want to avoid here if we can. A great deal of what is done and attributed to UFOs and ETs may well be just a psyops to cover up military black ops and sinister programs of abduction. And, I'm much more inclined to think that mad scientists on the earth, like the Nazis were known to be, are experimenting with hybriding and weird genetic and eugenic programs and abducting people and then blaming it on the ETs. You see what I mean?
Yep, yep.
I'm much more inclined to believe that that humans are doing this. I mean, there's a double challenge presented by the Gnostic expose of the Arcontes. It's a double challenge, and we're right in that challenge right now. We're looking down the double barrel of this challenge. The first part of the challenge is to recognize who the alien predators are, to understand their MO, and to understand how to defend ourselves against them, which the Gnostics also explained. We can get into that in part 2. That's concerning the Archons. But they're not the real ultimate danger that humanity is facing right now. The ultimate danger that humanity is facing today is intraspecies predation. Intra, I-N-T-R-A, meaning within our own species. And so there is a part of the human species that has split off and become pathologically, criminally, murderously insane. I don't think that statement is going to come as a revelation to anyone listening to this interview. Okay? Now, I'm not being Nostradamus here, folks. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying this is happening. The planet has been taken over in the governmental, military, economic, educational, pharmaceutical sectors by murderous, deceiving psychopaths. And the real danger to our species now is to get the agenda of these psychopaths, to get their MO, to know who they are, and to take them down. Because they're not going to stop until they're taken down. So we've got quite a job on our hands here, and it's extremely important in facing this critical moment in our evolution to distinguish between that which is done to us by an alien intrusion into our minds, causing us to behave like zombies remotely controlled by some psychic entities, and that which is done to us by our own kind. You see?
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, transhumanism, if you ask me about what transhumanism is really just a name, it's a label. In a way, it's kind of misleading, because it's a label that you can attach to the agenda of certain human beings who actually don't want to be human. And the main characteristic of all the human beings in the transhumanist agenda and the transhumanist gang is one simple thing that identifies them: fear of death.
Yep.
They're afraid to die.
Yep.
And so they want to upload their consciousness into a cybernetic organism, or they want to have nanomedicines and all of these. You know, you've interviewed many of these people and many of the detectives who are investigating them as well. And I'm here to say that that has turned them against humanity. So transhumanism is really a program of people who are anti-human. The trans part of it is a lie. If you want to go beyond humanity, you don't even know what humanity is. You don't even know what human potential is. And that, which is really stupid when you look at it, that stupid move, that obsession, comes from people who can't face their own humanity. They hate humanity. They're against humanity, and they're scared to death of death. And I have a message for those people, those transhumanists who don't want to die. So I hope some of them are listening to this, because this is John Lash's personal message to you, who don't ever want to die. Don't worry about it, folks. Because when you die, nothing will happen to you, because you're dead already. Okay? You're dead. Because we can only live as human beings as long as the quality of humanity lives in us. And the Gnostics knew what this quality of humanity was, and they educated and nurtured it with tremendous care. It is the quality of innocence, of goodwill, of play. It is the quality of communication. It is the quality of seek and discover. It is the quality of trial and error, to be willing to make a mistake and learn from your mistakes, to be transparent with each other. These are the pure qualities of humanity. It's like a flame of the anthropos that burns in you. And these are people in whom that flame has been snuffed out.
Yeah.
And even though they're walking around like you and me, and they're breathing, and they're eating, and they're excreting, they're dead, because their humanity has come to an end. And they're really like a dead branch on a tree. They're already dead. The Genome Project is going to go nowhere. It is a dead end. Transhumanism is a dead end. It's like a dead branch on a tree, and it goes nowhere, and it produces nothing.